Economic diversity. How do we foster economic diversity within the church?
I was going to say, is that in particular congregations? Is it like the context? Is there a context?
The question doesn't give a context, but I'm thinking local church, local congregation. No, I think it's a helpful question, because my observation is that economic segregation is one of the things we see most blatantly in our country. And so, how do you help the church overcome economic segregation?
I think it comes down from what I've seen. I've known churches that specifically targeted people with money. I don't know behind the scenes as to why. I mean, I have, some guesses, people who make more money could give bigger offerings, and even people who don't make a lot of money do give big offerings, but, it's much easier to get one person to give the church $100,000. If you have a rich person and a poor person, it'll take them a very long time, Another thing to that is that most of the churches a church opens in a specific community, and you're going to attract people from that community. If you're in a poor community, you're really only going to get a poor congregation. And if you're like a church in the Hamptons, you might get people with a lot of money. We perform in a lot of places, and that's usually what we see. It's according to the community. That's the economic spirit that you reach in your church.
I think just to some extent, it just goes back to a problem with the main word of this conference. There is a fundamental problem with the word diversity, and there's a fundamental problem with the word welcome. If we really say we're diverse, includes economic diversity. And if that is not possible, or if that is not being done, then we need to say we are not a diverse or a welcoming congregation until we figure out that we can welcome folks in an economic diversity just as we would in terms of belief diversity, in terms of gender and race and so on. That's why the diversity word is very problematic, more problematic than multiracial. Multiracial is very narrow concern, black and white, or Hispanic, Latino, black and white, or whatever. But when you start dealing with the word diversity, that means a really broad commitment to welcome, and that's a problem with folks.
Well, I think one of the things that to kind of just throw ideas out to everybody. One of the things that we can do with an economic diverse church is that we need to first come together and figure out what's important. I think we need to start ruling out the people that don't want to be mixed. Like we have somebody who's got money and they don't want to mix with somebody who doesn't have money, or somebody who doesn't have money doesn't want to mix with somebody who got money. Just leave those people alone. Let's start. No, honestly, because they will get involved. We've seen it many times. They will get involved when they see the profit. When they see it profit, they see things growing, then they get involved. Let's focus on those who are open to it, right? I think one way we can do it is because, just like Paradox said, it's almost like when you say economic diversity, you're almost talking about this church and that church, because you have this church and this community where the average income is this, and in that community, the average income is down there. What you need to do is have some sort of like a third-party association would be great. When you're talking about evangelical type things, I was mentioning in our sessions, the hip-hop sessions, there's an organization called Rock the Block, right? That organization goes around to whatever church that sponsors them, and they go into mostly at-risk communities. And they have workers of every race, mostly every race, every type of background, working and helping them out to evangelize that community. And that Rock the Block is not affiliated with any one church. They're an organization that is kind of like a third party type thing where people kind of join together for one cause. I think that is kind of like the most active thing I've seen already, and something that we can follow as a model to promote economic diversity in our church. And I presume that everybody in here believes in Jesus Christ, right? Whether rich or poor, black or white, that is our center. We need to first meet at that level. I'll tell you right now, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. I believe this and that and this and the other. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Jesus Christ died for me. And that's where we need to meet. And we see a need in our communities. We see a need in the political situation that's going on today. We need to meet that need and come together on that. So let's first find out what it is important that we agree on and then work forward. Don't worry about the people that don't want to come together. They'll come together eventually. But those who want to, on both sides, let's just do that. So I think that's one of the ways we can promote economic diversity in our church.
I think